Para empezar, queremos agradecer al Instituto Monteverde por facilitar el espacio para esta entrevista. Aquí estoy hoy con...
Eileen.
Bueno, Eileen, we're going to ask you some questions, specifically about Far Corners, about the work you've done with us, and then a little bit about what this summer has been like and the work we've done this summer with us. Okay, so to start, tell us a little bit about Far Corners, your story. How did you end up coming to Monteverde first, like the first time you came here? And yeah, how was that whole experience and that whole ride all the way up to now?
Yeah, so I grew up dancing my whole life. And when I started my undergraduate degree, university, I was looking for ways to continue dancing. And so that got me started in musical theater. I can't sing. I can't sing. I need to be very clear about that. But through musical theater, I was able to choreograph and find a love for that. So after performing in my first show, I had a professor my first year who happened to have lived here in Monteverde and worked with Lisa Burns, and so was on the email list for Far Corners. And she sent out the call for volunteers to our entire class, and I applied to choreograph, and that was for Fiddler on the Roof in 2017.
2017. And you've participated with Far Corners Productions. Which years and...
So, of course, Fiddler on the Roof in 2017, and then the next year was Dance Artists, which was a dance festival in collaboration with Rio Shanti. In 2021, I did some dance classes for the like COVID era, like
Right, the weird...
I don't know what the official name was. And then in 2022, I choreographed for Jesus Christ Superstar. And this year,
And this year?
choreographing for Rebelión Solar.
Okay, so Rebelión Solar. Let's get a little bit into... So let's backtrack a little bit, because you have the other side, you have the choreography part, but you'll have also the academic part, right?
Yes.
Which links both of them with Rebelión Solar. So let's go a little bit back again. What's your academic background and how does this link to the work that you did this summer with Far Corners?
So I started my PhD in integrative conservation this last August in 2024. I am studying integrative conservation, which is a fancy way of saying studying broadly the interactions between humans and nature. And how we shouldn't be looking at humans as separate from nature, but as part of nature. So looking at conservation in that way. Since my undergraduate degree and for my master's degree and now for my PhD, Monteverde has been part of my research, looking first at Pago de Servicios Ambientales, which is a conservation program here in Costa Rica, and then the impacts of the pandemic on ecotourism for my master's research, and then now I'm interested in looking at how values have been shaped by the pandemic, looking into what's called the diverse economies of just being here in Monteverde. So what beautiful solutions that came out of the pandemic, mostly out of necessity, and how that has reshaped how we look towards the future.
Okay, so if you were to encapsulate maybe this big concept of like solar punk into a few brief words, what would you summarize it as? What is solar punk?
So solar punk, or Rebelión Solar, as we're calling it in Spanish, is essentially asking the question, what if we get it right? What if we're able to achieve the most beautiful, fantastic future? Why limit ourselves into imagining what our future can be?
Right, and it's also linked to sustainability, right? It's not necessarily a free future where we're using resources, what do you call it, sparsely?
Yes, so Rebelión Solar, I would say it has like four key tenets. Um, One of them is that we're imagining a future that's sustainable and just. So it's a future that's made for everybody and successful for everyone. So that's, again, looking at not only our current generation or who's using the world now, but also how future generations will be able to inherit the world. Or a saying that I have found a lot of comfort in is we do not inherit the world from our ancestors, but we borrow the world from our children.
Hmm. That's a very neat quote. See. Why? Okay, so why? This is interesting. Monteverde. Why Monteverde? Why Monteverde to study specifically Rebelión Solar and the interaction with people and how people think about their future? Why
Yeah.
would you choose Monteverde in particular?
Well, I guess ever since I worked with Far Corners in 2017, um, it's almost like a magnet. It keeps pulling me back, the community. I, I love the people here. I've loved all the, I guess, just amazing things to do here. The climate, I know it can get a little chilly sometimes, but I like that too. And so I feel like I just kind of get pulled back year after year. And for this research specifically, this project specifically, um, I feel like Monteverde is the perfect place to look into this because not every community was as fortunate as Monteverde during the pandemic. Not many communities used the pandemic as a way to come together, to unite. Um, and so many communities, I mean, we all struggled during the pandemic, but many communities like truly struggled during the pandemic. My master's research focused more on the impacts of the pandemic on ecotourism. And if I'm being very honest, it wasn't the most optimistic or hopeful research. Like many people that do research, research tends to be more critical. And so now with this current research, with this current project, I'm challenging myself to be more hopeful. And I feel like that's something that Monteverde has been doing as well, is there was a lot of hope still during the pandemic. And there's been a lot more intention of looking towards the future to build something that can give, I feel like, the youth hope for the future as well.
Do you find yourself, specifically this summer, and as you worked with the production of Rebelión Solar, have you found yourself finding this hope that you're searching for in the youth of Monteverde, in the talking to the kids of Monteverde?
Yes, I think that with the youth, very specifically, something that happens as we grow older is we kind of lose touch with our creativity. And so when we lose touch with our creativity, I think we limit our future more. So with the youth, when they're still able to just, have a blank sheet of paper and like draw something or write something, I think that gives me a lot of hope that there's still a lot of ideas that can lead us to the future.
Okay, that's very cool. And your experience, okay, so that's very neat. Talking to the kid to about the experience with Rebelión Solar. We worked with the band and we worked with Aroma de Café. What was your experience with this groups of kids? And was it any different from, let's say, working on productions that are more musically theater related? This one had a more, like, let's say, an intentional message behind.
Yes.
So how do you communicate that message effectively with the kids and with the band and all the every resource that you have at hand? What was similar in your experience this time around, and what was different?
Yeah, so Rebellion Solar was definitely different in that it was more immersive theater. We were inviting the audience to be part of the performance as well. I think the message was one that we could all understand the idea of kind of the impacts that we as humans can have on our environment in terms of pollution and litter. So that was a message that I feel like was easy for each of us to understand. Um, I feel that art in any form always has a message. So that wasn't so much different from musical theater. However, the way that we were able to interact with the audience, with the public more directly, was allowed for kind of more of that division between performer and audience to be broken down a bit more.
So let's talk a little bit about the workshops that you've been doing
Yes.
with so you've been working with kids from where specifically?
So I've been able during my time here these past 2 months to have two workshops. One with some students at the Friends School here in Monteverde, and then another one hosted by Hotel Con Corazon with students from Monteverde and also from Guatemala.
Okay, so Monteverde and Guatemala, and it's interesting. Have you seen differences between what the kids in Monteverde talk about when they think about the future, where they think about Monteverde in the coming years, and what the Guatemala kids?
Yep. So I guess during this workshop, first, we talk about what Rebellion Solar is. We go through some examples, and then we learn about different ways that we can apply Rebellion Solar to our future. And so the task or the challenge that these youth have is to imagine Monteverde or their community in the year 2150 from the perspective of their descendants. And the reason 2150 was picked is because there's already Commission 2050. So these youth are now having to look even farther into the future. And so, windy. In terms of differences and similarities between these two groups, I think one thing that stood out to me is that everybody was there was a lot of concern about the future. I think in this day and age, it's very easy, I think, for all of us to go onto social media and just see all of the bad news that's happening all around the world or even right here in our communities. And so it can be very easy for any of us to be pessimistic about the future, to not have that hope or to lose that hope. So there was definitely some anxiety about the future. Fortunately, through this workshop, I think it was over 80% of the students felt more hopeful and felt more empowered at the end of the workshop, which I think is one of my biggest successes. So that I think was one common theme. Another common theme is that a lot of the youth were seeing that one of the solutions moving forward was community, was solidarity, was working together. And that gave me a lot of hope personally, just seeing that, because I think that's something we all learned during the pandemic as well. And then going into some of the differences, here in Monteverde, I think a lot of students have the privilege to learn about what sustainability is very early on. I, for example, didn't learn about sustainability until I got into university. So the fact that I could go into a classroom of students and just ask who here knows what sustainable development is, and everybody raised their hand, is pretty amazing. And the other thing is, here in Monteverde, a lot of students have had access to arts education through their school, through Far Corners, through other opportunities like Rome de Cafe, the band. There are a lot of opportunities to become involved in very creative ways. And that is not the case for everywhere in Costa Rica, everywhere in the world. And so that was a difference I noticed within the workshops, is just the access that students had to both that knowledge of sustainability and also that experience being more creative and expressing themselves through art.
Right. Cool. And it speaks to how fortunate we are in Monteverde specifically of being able to access this type of scenarios or situations or groups that give us the access to arts, to express ourselves, to build community that in a way is kind of the foundation of this solar punk. This solar punk deal is starting with community. How do we grow and make it more sustainable, make it more accessible to people, horizontally for everybody? And yeah, any last thoughts on your workshops, on what maybe would you want to work further on in specifically talking about environmental education in Monteverde or in the larger Monteverde area? What else is needed to be talked about? What are the challenges moving forward in these topics?
Yeah, one of the preliminary conclusions from the workshops that I've sort of noticed is it seems like a lot of the youth here have a desire to become more involved in decisions about the future of Monteverde. So I think then the community needs or should look at different ways to get the youth more involved because they have so many ideas, they have a lot of energy, and it seems like there's a desire from many of the students to be able to contribute to change, to contribute to meaningful change within the community, but not every student knows exactly how to do that. So I think that's a challenge for the community to be able to figure that out, or to look for more ways, more diverse ways for youth to become involved. And I'm thinking, it's for the future of this project, for the future of this research, I want to continue to offer these sorts of workshops to youth in Monteverde. I also plan to make the materials for the workshops available to anyone who wants it. I'm not trying to hold on to any of those resources. And I'm hoping that through this and through other initiatives that this project will be able to inform more decisions about the future of Monteverde, so we can achieve that big, beautiful, amazing future.
It's very cool. It sounds from what it sounds like, it's given hope just from what you're saying.
It's a lot of work.
Any final last what do you call it? Highlight of the workshops, maybe a drawing that an idea, a thought that happened during the workshops that you thought was amazing that you want to rescue, or
Okay, I mean, there are a lot of amazing ideas. Just the range. We have a toothbrushing robot, which I don't know, could save us, well, it wouldn't really save us 2 minutes because you still have to brush your teeth for 2 minutes.
It's a neat idea, though.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of accessibility, that's great. It seems like there's a coffee shop in pretty much every future that has been described. I feel
good for coffee lovers.
Good for coffee lovers. A high-speed train through the forest, but it's quiet, so it doesn't disturb the wildlife. A lot of students really wanted to improve transportation here in Monteverde, either by improving roads, or even the suggestion was made to not allow buses that use gas to pass a certain point, to have an electric-free or electric-only zone in Monteverde, which would cut down on both like very like localized air pollution and also noise pollution.
That is super neat. And it's so interesting that thinking about, because these are problems for the future, right, in 100 years, but they're already trying to solve things that are happening now, that are becoming issues now. And that is quite super, super interesting.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the workshop or in your experience in the Rebelión Solar project that you want to add, or?
I don't know. Monteverde gives me hope. The youth give me hope. And I've been finding a lot of fulfillment out of this project, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, because like you, I don't know where where it's going yet, but it's going somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Bueno, I think that's gonna be it for this interview. Bueno, Eileen, thank you so much for this interview. We hope that for everybody watching, that this was insightful, that it provided a lot of hope for the work that we do in this community, for the work that can be done in the Monteverde community and surrounding areas in Costa Rica. And speaking about this work, part of it requires funding, and so we're in the ask for donations. If you can find in you to donate a little bit of funds to keep furthering this type of community projects, workshops such as the one that Eileen did with the community of Monteverde, other social, artistic workshops, and as well as the plays and the theater productions that we do yearly. We would really, really appreciate them, and we would really be thankful for your donations. So thank you very much again for watching this episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.